for it to connect. Hello, and welcome to another live stream. Today, I've got a very special guest, Andy Lowe from Sandler Training. He's going to introduce yourself in a minute, aren't you, Andy? Well, I just welcome everybody to the live stream. Now, as usual, if you are watching this live, please do give us a thumbs up. Say that you're watching. Say hello. You can ask any questions as we are going along whilst we are live, and we'll answer them live too, which is always good. So please do join the chat and tell us all about yourselves, your business, what your challenges might be on social media when it comes to selling, which is always a good one, because Andy today is going to be talking about how do we convert those social media inquiries into actual sales. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Bex from Social Media Executive. Again, please do say hello in the comments so that we know we're not just talking to ourselves, which is always a good one. And basically, this live stream is brought to you from the Social Flock. And the Social Flock is a social media support group where we work with busy business owners to help them create their social media content. We support you to do it yourselves. We hold content writing sessions on Zoom to hold you accountable. We run loads of webinars. Andy has been one of our guest expert webinars, who again has done a lot of training for my members around social media, how we get sales from our social media. So we run training throughout the year, and more importantly, we have a lovely friendly group who all provide each ideas and feedback on everyone's social media. So if you're interested in joining the Social Flock, then we'd love to welcome you to the group, and I'll pop a link in the chat as well. But today, more importantly, I've got Andy here from Sandler Training, and he's going to be talking about how we convert social media inquiries into sales. And Andy, you are an absolute sales expert, aren't you? Do you want to introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, that's kind. Well, really, Sandler is the expert. And when I've got a long corporate career, and Sandler is pretty much the best content on sales I've ever come across, because some people, they kind of love sales. They're great. And it's kind of like rock stars. It's kind of what they're born to it. Other people kind of have to do it to do what they love. And so Sandler works with different people where they are. So they've got some real big clients. So LinkedIn is a client of Sandler, HubSpot, lots of big organizations around the world have chosen Sandler. But it's also, it's interactive. You make it around people's businesses, not necessarily sort of dry theory. And it's very good for people who don't necessarily love sales, and that there's particularly tricky bits that they have to mention, maybe stand out from the crowd, talk around money, any of those things. It's got based on psychology, and it helps people sell, I think, more authentically, ethically, and professionally. And also it's backed by about 30 best-selling books. It's got content at Harvard. And so it's got a long history of helping organizations of different sizes. So that's why I kind of think Sandler is the best stuff. And when I wanted to run my own business, it was the premier option for me. And I'm glad I did it, right? I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. And I think that's the important thing, isn't it? It's because when you launch your own businesses, particularly small businesses, we launch our businesses because we've got a passion. We're very, very, expert in a certain area, but actually doesn't necessarily mean you're a good salesperson, does it? And I think that's the difficult thing, isn't it? When you are running your business, you're expected to all of a sudden wear all these different hats.
Yeah, I remember working with, she was a business coach, and she's brilliant. Look at her CV, it was amazing. But it's that blockage with sales. And some people tell me they'd rather hide under the couch than kind of like follow up stuff, because sales has got a bit of a bad reputation, if we're honest. If I actually think of a typical salesperson, you're probably not thinking of something which is positive. And so when we don't want to be like that, so sometimes people just don't do what they kind of know would work. And sometimes they kind of send off quotes and they don't know whether the person really wants it or whether they can afford it, or we just kind of miss important things out, which makes it hard for them and hard for us. And there's lots of ghosting and bad practices. So yeah, we don't stand for that. And we help people kind of like get over that.
And I think that's important because, I mean, I work with a lot of businesses on social media and train them, you know, how to use social media more effectively. And it's similar. It's like a lot of people don't like social media. So they kind of dabble a bit on the side and push stuff out because they have to. But actually, there's none of that strategy behind it. There's not a lot of understanding. And it's like anything, you don't know what you don't know. Now, I've been on some of your training sessions as well, Andy, which have been really quite, you know, useful to sort of highlight things that really sort of gets you thinking and helps you to take a step back and go, oh, that's how I should be doing it. So if obviously we're doing our social media in the right way, we should be getting inquiries weekly, monthly. And then you've just mentioned something that I'm definitely guilty of, and that's the inquiries come in. I then might respond a bit sort of non-committally, and then hope that they follow it up. But what is the best way to do it? If we get that inquiry coming in on social media, what should we do with it?
Well, I can give you some examples and some practical things you can do. I kind of think at those early stages, you don't know whether you can help someone. You don't really know what they want, and they may not either, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I would certainly recommend is to pick up the phone and actually have a real world conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
I remember an example of someone I'm going to meet later today, actually, so happens. So it's fresh in my mind, is that I met the CEO over LinkedIn. We connected. I say, hey, I share a bunch of stuff on sales and leadership content. As you know, my LinkedIn's a little bit formal because I'm one of those that hides away from some of some of the things. So, but I send a load of content that people might find useful or will find useful.
Yeah.
So we connected. I shared some stuff, and he asked me a specific question. And so I didn't really know whether I could help, but I thought I might. So I was honest. Disarming honesty is a thing that people don't necessarily do in sales, but it's effective. And I said, hey, I don't know whether I can help. Why don't we jump on a 5-10 minute call? You can tell me what was on your mind. And if I can offer any advice or help, we can do. And if it's worth it, we can always set up a longer call.
Yeah.
So we jumped on a call. We had a nice chat, connected. I kind of thought I helped. I don't know whether he thought, but what we did is that we had that connection and we stayed in touch. So next time we did have a problem that I definitely could solve, we had a longer conversation. And that led to a sale. And I've been training their sales team, and it's kind of developed into a nice relationship. But what I didn't do is jump in and do the sort of war and peace response that sometimes you see on LinkedIn. That you kind of go, it's all about me, 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 me. This is what we do, and we're this. Take a step back. Not sure. Sounds interesting. Why don't we talk about it?
And putting yourselves into their shoes, I suppose, isn't it? Rather than thinking about, right, I need some more clients, push, 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 sell, sell, sell. Actually taking that step back and going, but what is it that they actually need?
I think that's a really important point because people buy for their reasons, right? Not necessarily mine. Definitely not mine, really. They want to help their business. I'm doing a session later with some clients all around developing a business case, right? But it's not my business case. It's what's the return on investment? What's the reason they should spend a penny on this stuff?
Yeah.
So it's not cheating to ask questions. So going into that initial call and your pre-call plan, which often people don't do, but you should, what are the questions that you would like to ask to move the conversation on? How are you going to structure it? So a little bit of thought. There's some research, I think it's by Gong, and it was the top 10% of sales performers did a little bit more planning. They knew the purpose of the call. They knew the questions they would ask. And what the effect that has is there were fewer meanders in the conversation, and they tended to get further and close more. And
Okay.
they had, you start well, you tend to end well.
Yeah.
You start weekly is like, sometimes you don't know how you can help, and people want to have a chat, which is lovely. But if you know what the conversation is about or likely to be about, what objections, what risks, you're prepared, and you can
And
plan
it's
more.
doing that little bit of planning then, I suppose, isn't it? Doing that bit of planning, getting to know your target a little bit better. And I always think when you do take the time out to do that, and when people do that to me, for example, I always feel like valued because, they've actually taken the time out to find out a little bit more about me. And I feel much more valued in that they understand me rather than someone who phoned me up and just went, right, but I can get your YouTube channel, ranking higher with thousands more subscribers. And it's like, well, so can lots of other people. Why should I choose you? It's too pushy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you ring someone up and say you've spotted a couple of things, is it worth a conversation, and it's relevant to them, you might go, yeah, it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between showing interest in stalking, right? You've got to judge that right. I've been reading everything you've ever written on social media. Okay, I'm going now. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just those cold sales, and I think people do tend to use social media as a bit of a cold sales tool. And actually, it's not about that. It's about building your community, building meaningful connections on your social media so that people then want to inquire and want to have a conversation. So at that point, then they've seen your content, they've seen what you do, they feel they want to work with you. Maybe they send you a private LinkedIn message, for example. What would you do then? What would you recommend is that next step?
I think social media friends aren't necessarily friends, right? So you've got to take it into the real world in some way, whether that is, hey, does it make sense? We're going to have an initial call, see if there's a fit. And if so, maybe go grab a coffee or set up a Zoom or, in-person meetings possible still, right? So it's finding a way to kind of take that into a real world. So you're discussing real world things, right? So, and
that personal connection, get it a little bit deeper, than what you've nurtured.
What made them reach out? Some people like the phrase, isn't it? I like it. I've got lots of American colleagues. We reach out, right? So sometimes people contact you, I should say. People contact you. It's like, oh yeah, what was behind it? Is it what you're interested in? Because people are interested in people's favorite topic is often themselves. And I think sometimes people forget that on LinkedIn when they message and bombard and did you see me, So that'd be my advice.
So basically, get those conversations booked in.
Yeah, get the conversation started.
Right? Zoom if they work internationally, and have that face-to-face interaction.
Yeah, and there is some research that suggests that asking for interest has got a better response rate than then jumping straight for a meeting. I'm in your area next week. Buyers tend to spot it a lot.
Okay.
So if you're particularly pushy, I'm in your area, it can work. All things can work. But if you kind of jump in for the close too quickly. So in prospecting, I would suggest going for the appointment. Maybe checking with interest, but seeing whether there's an appointment or a phone call or a concrete next step.
Yeah. So taking them on that journey, but having that plan, isn't it? Doing your research. So what are the common mistakes then that people tend to make when literally taking that crucial, the inquiries come into your inbox? What we've kind of touched on them a little bit, haven't we? But what are the sort of common mistakes that you see that basically then close down that conversation and really spoil that initial inquiry?
I think because people are often experts in what they do, they're in their head, you can kind of see why the other person should buy often before they do.
Yeah.
And so if you're 100% closed, they should buy, it's like we're slightly ahead of the sale. And sometimes well, I call it happy ears. We kind of go, oh, they've inquired, they're going to buy. Let me send them all the information that we've got, and then case studies, and then they kind of go, oh, this is salesy. I'm going to stop speaking with them now because this just seems weird. Or I've got everything I need now. I go on Google University, or I go shop the competition, or often people just lose control of the sale.
Yeah.
Because they never stop to kind of slow it down, to speed it up and find out why would they even talk to you? What were they interested in? What were they hoping we could do?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
that? And so
And
sometimes,
yeah.
so if you're ahead of them in the sale, that's probably a little bit more likely to be pushy or be perceived as being pushy. You know, you don't want to be so laid back you don't respond, which is the other way to go. So, yeah. Finding out, being interested before being interesting, right? They'll buy for their reasons. You can. It's not cheating to ask questions. Get them in a conversation, and if you do that, you'll probably come across as a little bit different from the competition anyway.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? It's that fine line, because listening to you speak, I was like thinking, oh yeah, that's me. That's me. One that, you know, is, oh yes, I'll say to my husband, oh yeah, I've got 3 new members this week for the social flock. And then they don't sign up. So I haven't got 3 new members because they haven't actually signed up. You know, they may come on eventually, which makes me smile. But also it's that element of, I don't want to appear too pushy when it comes to sales. And so I then hold back a little bit too much, and probably don't follow up enough. So we might have that one call on Zoom, and I think, great, they're happy. If they want to join, they will. I'm not going to chase them up because I then think it's too pushy. And it's this conception, isn't it, that actually...
Yeah. One of the things that... there's a number of things there. You said lots of fascinating things there. How do we unpack? But, one of the things is, well, we define sales as a conversation between adults to uncover the truth.
Okay.
Now, there is a book, I won't say it's live, I don't know who's watching, but that says that truth will set you free, but first it will you off, right? And you may not like what they're thinking, they may not, but that could be a no, it could be a yes, but it's better that you find out, right?
Yeah.
So how do you ask authentic conversations to qualify? Because you're busy, they're busy, and if you can find a way to kind of reduce that sales cycle, get those questions in early, but not in a pushy way, but to figure out whether there's a business case, there's an idea, there's something that they should be doing or maybe could be doing, figuring that out as a yes or a no, and getting some honest. There's a bit around next steps, which I certainly used to do, which is you're not sure what's happening next. So I've had remember someone who owned a HR organization, and what she said is that she thinks she's got a couple of new clients. And I was like, thinks? Yes, yeah, well, they kind of said they would definitely got to go ahead. I did a talk recently, and I'm definitely interested. We should do this. It's not the same as I've signed the purchase order, the payments coming in the account, and we're going to talk about implementation next.
Yeah.
So what we talk about is clear and certain futures, clear for them, clear for us. And if that's no, we can stay friends, but we're not going to work together, at least now. Well, that's life, that's fine.
Yeah.
If yes means we're going to go ahead and we're going to kind of work together, we're going to tackle these things, well, that's great as well, right? Even better. So I'm getting excited about sales now. You see where I want to shut me up. All right. But, one of the analogies that I like to say is like, if I've got fairly youngest kids getting older now, but it's the idea of going into a room and it's like pitch black, and it's like, you imagine a child going into a dark room. There's like monsters lurking. It's kind of feels dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes when a buyer goes into a situation and they think they're going to be caught out, they're going to be ripped off, there's going to be things lurking that haven't been told. It's kind of puts them a little bit on edge, a bit suspicious. Or like a child, hey, that's not bring them back.
Yeah.
So how could you turn on the light? Because then all the monsters just disappear, right?
Yeah.
and help them understand that, yeah, at this stage, typically people want to either do this or do that. And if they want to do that, this is what it means. Does that sound like a plan? You're not comfortable with that, because we can kind of change the plan if you like. But if I've helped them understand those next steps that people typically do, which is probably in their best interest if they are interested. Typically at this stage, people want to know the price, return on investment. Is that a conversation that you'd like? At certain stages, helping them buy effectively or qualifying them out is important. So it's kind of like putting them at ease, and there's certain steps you can do to kind of help that happen quicker. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Because there's never a simple answer anyway, is there? Because if it was a simple answer, everyone would be doing it, and everyone would be doing really well with their sales. Because it's a different approach for everyone, isn't it? And different questions need to be asked for different potential buyers, don't they?
That is true, but the complicating factor is often us. And I know this from personal experience, because I use some Sandler techniques when I'm implementing them. I've had stickies on my computer to tell me what to do, because I keep on forgetting, and I know the answer. And so it's quite a nice insight when I train people, because sometimes I can help them understand a technique in 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I can tell them an analogy, or this happens, or some stats, and they get it. When the real world happens, and you ask them to have a money conversation, or talk about commitment at certain stages, or whatever it is that they've got a choice to remember it and do it, or if they feel uncomfortable, sometimes we talk about having 5 seconds of bravery and doing it then. Doing something different.
And it is. And I think that's it, isn't it? I think that's the key thing. It's sometimes you have to put yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone. A bit like live stream today, Andy. Your first planned live stream today, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. So I like social media. I love training, but social, I don't know why. This is terrifying.
But it's been brilliant, and we're adding value. But it is about pushing ourselves slightly out of our comfort zone, so that it does become the norm, so that it does get rooted into our everyday routines and our everyday way, whether it be on social media or selling.
That's an important point, because what we tend to find is we've got something called a success triangle. And people often come to training because they think it's all about the technique. But if you don't do it consistently, and you haven't got that behavior, you do it when you're forced, or you do it when you need the business, not necessarily because you're planning for the future and you want it to kind of scale or double. Or one of the key things is what's between our ears and our attitudes towards stuff, right? So sometimes the cause of the issue is not the technique, because they know it. It could be the attitude, or the fact that it's done inconsistently, or at the wrong time, or they're not doing it at all.
And I think, that's one of the reasons as well. I launched the social flock. That's why Barbara's there, because people know they've got to post on social media. They know it will generate inquiries if they are consistent. But most people are not consistent because they're either not comfortable, they don't know they're lacking ideas, they're too busy, too busy to do it. So that's why the social flock was launched, to empower busy business owners to be consistent on their social media, and to get, to come together in a group where we're all accountable to each other and write our posts together online on Zoom. So
there's a Sandler trainer called John Rosso. He's got some really great podcasts if people want to look at some of the Sandler content. But on consistency, he's got a really nice phrase. He says, consistency equals freedom, because it gives you that freedom to kind of have headspace, do what you want, so build the business that you want. And if you have that consistency, it's the foundation for kind of like all the stuff you want to do. Because with certain things like sales or social media, sometimes people don't know where to start, and honestly, maybe don't even know when to stop. So having that behavioral plan when it comes to prospecting or other activities, they kind of got that start and stop, and it's aligned with what they want to achieve.
And having that plan. So thanks, Andy. I'm just conscious of the time. And so how do people get in contact with you? what I know you run some really good training. If they want to sort of follow on from here, you've got a nice sort of free sort of taster session, haven't you?
Oh,
for
yes.
your sales training.
So thank you for mentioning that. So yeah, linking with me, I can always send people an invite to it. But we get fairly smallish groups, 5, 10 people who own local businesses, or directors or professionals. We work with accountants, lawyers, other people as well, who kind of have to have the commercial conversation, but definitely don't see themselves as being a salesperson. And they come on a Zoom call, it's free. And what they can do is tell us the typical challenges that they have in sales. We talk a little bit about why those happen and when they happen and how to avoid it, and offer some solutions and ideas that they can kind of implement in their business. So they're welcome to come on as our guest. And if they want to follow up with us afterwards, that's cool. But the session isn't about me selling. It's like an educational thing. And it's interesting because we have new people, new content, new ideas. So yeah, come along, come say hi.
Come along. Brilliant. Well, thanks, Andy. I put the link here. Do connect with Andy on LinkedIn, and the link there for that training as well that he's mentioned. So I'd just like to say a huge thank you, Andy, for coming along and sharing your expertise with us. I will certainly be taking some of that putting it into practice. And we'll see you all next Monday at 12:30 live on social media for some more tips and advice when it comes to social media.
Thanks very much, Bex. Thanks everyone.
Bye. See you later. Bye.
Bye.